product lifecycle tab then opens up those areas along the supply chain, if you want to call it, from source through end consumer, and lets you dig down into now, if you click on any one of these, so we'll choose source, these become now the access that you get to the detailed level of items within the supply chain that in this case show up when you're looking at source. Once you open the section for the supply chain or the product life cycle, you can choose any of the areas to look at details within the source through end consumer, or you may choose to look at the full product demand cycle or maybe the full product replenishment cycle. If you choose one, as you might expect, you get the explanation at the top, and then down below, now this is something that's a little new. The concept might be the same to you, but the details of what it's trying to show you might be a little different. So what this is trying to say is within, let me collapse this, that makes it a little easier. Within product replenishment, we believe that these are all of the detailed elements of a supply chain that affect or are involved in this case, product replenishment. So as you look down the list, you'll see we've figured, or we've identified as of today, 86 different detailed items that come to bear if you're going to do anything in terms of looking at your product replenishment. While we believe there's a lot of useful parts to the encyclopedia, once you enter the product lifecycle area, that's where we believe you'll really start to see the power of this tool come to life. So inside this product lifecycle area, no matter how you get in here, you'll find this is where all of we're already up to many hundreds of individual little elements that must be organized and orchestrated across this whole supply chain, where they begin to become connected for you in the tool. So no matter where you are, maybe you choose to look at some things going on in the sourcing area, we've identified these different elements that apply when you're looking at sourcing. If you perhaps were to choose distribution, maybe you're looking at lowering your cost by doing something with your inventory, and you're looking therefore at inventory maybe in the distribution area. So first of all, you have the description obviously of the distribution area, but then in the tool you also have the ability to filter and search and sort. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to type in inventory into the filter or search area, and now you'll see it dynamically then the tool sorts out, or filters out rather, in this case in the distribution area, out of all of the elements, the ones that relate to inventory. And so you can see just in the distribution area we've already cataloged 69 elements that come to play or brought to bear in the distribution cycle, and out of those 69, 40 of those relate to inventory, and it's now displaying the first 10. We could change it and maybe show 20 out of the list, but the idea here is that you're beginning to see all the things you need to look at if you're going to do anything in distribution that's related to inventory. So perhaps you're looking at maybe reducing the buffer inventory. So you might open that, look at some of the details of how buffer inventory shows up in the distribution cycle or phase of the life cycle or supply chain. So here's how it shows up, an example of how you might make it better, some common issues, the impact of maybe too much buffer inventory. So these are where we're going to bring out details about this element, buffer inventory, in the distribution part of the product life cycle. But what you're also going to see, you might look at what leadership elements it affects and all that, but it also begins to catalog what other supply chain elements either in the distribution cycle or elsewhere in the product life cycle are related to buffer inventory in the distribution cycle. So what you'll see is there's some kind of a connection between, if you look down here in the chart, in the end consumer area of the life cycle, cycle inventory is somehow affected by or connected to buffer inventory in the distribution cycle. And over here to the right is then how it shows you how it's connected. So if you look at in the product replenishment area, cycle inventory is also somehow connected to buffer inventory in distribution. And if you click on the icon, it will then show you how that's connected. And so what it begins to do is it's trying to help you, the supply chain professional, to not miss any of these related items, so that it connects the dots for you based on where your focus is at the moment. So right now we're looking at buffer inventory and distribution, and it's telling us if you do something in that world, you're going to somehow touch and affect these other things, and here's how. You may want that on purpose, or you may want to be very careful before you start doing anything with your buffer inventory in the distribution cycle. At the same time, though, if we were somehow maybe looking at the end consumer area of the supply chain, and as we're looking at this end consumer, maybe once again we're still thinking of inventory. We now begin to see here are all the things that the encyclopedia is trying to tell us as it relates to inventory at the end consumer phase of life. Here are all those different things that are involved. And now here's our cycle inventory. Let's open that up. And now we're looking at cycle inventory in the end consumer. And we can now see that it's telling us, hey, you need to be aware of that buffer inventory in the distribution cycle. And so, dependent on where your focus is, the encyclopedia will rotate and bring into your awareness all of these other related items, so that you can, once again, kind of plan for it, or just be aware of it, so you don't solve a problem in one area and end up creating a problem in another area. And so that's really the power of the encyclopedia.